Exactly. So I think I came to the conclusion you were like going on. I remember because you know we came to the all the people. You came to our house. And then back to the beginning of
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب السعادة والسعادة الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسرنا أن نرحب بكم في مقر الأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية، والتي تعد الذراع التعليمي للجنة الأولمبية القطرية. نرحب بكم اليوم في ندوة التعليم وتطوير الحركة الأولمبية، والتي ارتئينا من خلالها أن نشكل إرثا تثقيفيا وتعليميا على هامش بطولة العالم للألعاب الشاطئية الأولمبية، والتي تستضيفها الدوحة خلال الفترة من 12 وحتى 16 من أكتوبر. هذه الندوة التي نهدف من خلالها لتحقيق أهداف الأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية، وهي نشر الثقافة الأولمبية والرياضية ليس في دولة قطر وحدها فحسب، بل بالمنطقة أكملها. حضورنا الكرام، في بداية اجتماعنا لهذا اليوم يسرنا أن نرحب بسعادة السيد جاسم بن راشد البعينين، أمين عام اللجنة الأولمبية القطرية، رئيس مجلس إدارة الأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية، لإلقاء الكلمة في هذه المناسبة.
Your Excellencies, dear friends, colleagues, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to your second home, Doha. It's an honor to welcome all of you here today in this great institution, Qatar Olympic Academy. I would like to start with a quote by the founder of the modern Olympic movement, Baron J. For each individual, sport is a possible source for inner improvement, and that is exactly what Qatar Olympic Academy strives for since its establishment in 2006. What better way to build the education foundation for the self-improvement than through great institutions like the Olympic Academies? Over the past 2 decades, Qatar has developed into a sports hub in the region and the world. It helped bringing major sports events for the first time in the Middle East, inspiring the younger generation into adopting a healthy lifestyle. It also created opportunities to showcase the power of sport in exciting and educating the youth. Through hosting top-level sports events, Qatar has gained substantial experience and knowledge in sport events organization, created a new benchmark. But more importantly, we built a rich legacy. The School Olympic programs, a legacy of the Doha 2006 Asian Games, has been running successfully since 2007, combining sport with culture and education. And it has become a beacon for sport development in the region. However, one of the most important gifts was the Qatar Olympic Academy, which was established in 2006. This institution helps to build capabilities and increase knowledge of the young and the old through a variety of programs and workshops delivering the Olympic values and principles. This maximizes the outreach of such programs and ensure a wider spread in the community locally and regionally. These courses have been enriched by strategic partnerships such as Qatar University, Hamad bin Khalifa University, the University of Lleida and Barcelona, the University of Colorado, the Ministry of Education and Higher Education, among others, all these being in close cooperation with the International Olympic Academy. Dear colleagues, Qatar Olympic Committee is determined more than ever to inspire, connect, and excite societies through the power of sport, which has the potential to bridge cultures and reinforce friendship among people of the world. This cannot be possible without the great support of our government, led by His Highness the Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, who is a pillar of the Olympic movement in our nation. The strong belief of our leaders in the power of sport was translated into state-of-the-art facilities, one of which is this key building. Ladies and gentlemen, the Olympic movement enables all of us to bridge sport, culture, education, and diversity in a true celebration of Olympism. We are grateful for seeing you all with us today to celebrate Olympism, Olympic education, and the inaugural edition of the annual World Beach Games. On behalf of the QOC and the Qatar Olympic Academy, I wish you a successful seminar and a wonderful stay in Doha, and I hope to see you all in venues, Aspire, Al Gharrafa Club, and Qatar during the next few days. Thank you very much.
شكرا سعادة الأمين العام. كما يسعدنا الآن أن ندعو السيد سيف محمد النعيمي المدير التنفيذي للأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية لتقديم عرض عن أنشطة الأكاديمية وفعالياتها. Kindly note that the presentation of Mr. Saif al-Naimi will be in Arabic. Please use the translation.
أصحاب السعادة والسادة، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أرحب فيكم بالأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية اليوم، وسوف أعرض عليكم عرض برزنتيشن بسيط عن الأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية. سنبدأ بفيديو تعريفي عن الأكاديمية.
See from what I saw around, I can see how hard you're working in order to promote Olympism in Qatar. I want to congratulate Saif and the rest of the members of the Academy for this wonderful job and the wonderful building that you're working in. And I want to wish you good days to come and good results, always in clean sports. A clean way, because this is what the Olympic Academy has to do, is really the educational part of Olympism in Qatar.
نبدأ مع الرؤية الأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية أن تصبح أكاديمية أولمبية رائدة في مجال الرياضة والتعليم الأولمبي على المستوى الخليجي والعربي والقاري تحت مظلة الحركة الأولمبية الدولية. هنالك مهام رئيسية للأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية، أهمها أن تكون الأكاديمية مركزا تعليمي إقليمي معرفي يقدم عدد من البرامج مع الأكاديمية الأولمبية الدولية معتمد من اللجنة الأولمبية الدولية، ومنها على سبيل المثال برنامج الإدارة الرياضية، برنامج المدربين العربي، وبرنامج القيم الأولمبية. المهمة الثانية وهي أن يكون مركز وطني لترويج الرياضة والحركة الأولمبية على المستوى الوطني. تقدم الأكاديمية دورات وورش عمل للرياضيين ومدرسين التربية البدنية والمجتمع. المهمة الأخيرة وأن يكون مركز إقليمي للأبحاث الرياضية لتنظيم المؤتمرات وحلقات النقاش وإصدار الأبحاث الأكاديمية والاحترافية، وهذا المشروع قيد الإنشاء مع الأكاديمية الأولمبية الدولية. قامت الأكاديمية بإصدار النسخة العربية من كتاب القيم الأولمبية في منهاج التربية البدنية، وهي أول دولة عربية تبادر بإدخال كتاب القيم الأولمبية في منهاج التربية الرياضية في الدولة. ومن أحدث البرامج لدينا برنامج الماجستير في القانون الرياضي، أنشئ في عام 2017، وخلال عام 2018 تم تقديم النسخة الثانية بالتعاون مع جامعة ليدا الإسبانية، وبدعم من المجلس الأولمبي الآسيوي ومحكمة التحكيم الرياضي كاس واللجنة الأولمبية الدولية ممثلة في التضامن الأولمبي، بالإضافة إلى اتحاد اللجان الأولمبية الوطنية أنو. كما يوجد لدينا برنامج الإدارة الرياضية الذي ينقسم إلى أقسام، وهي عبارة عن دورات: دورة الإدارة الرياضية المستوى الأول والمستوى الثاني، بالإضافة إلى دبلوم الإدارة المتقدم للمؤسسات الرياضية، وهو من أهم البرامج لدينا. ونعمل حاليا على طرح البرنامج الماجستير في الإدارة الرياضية بإذن الله. المستوى الثاني بالإضافة إلى دبلوم الإدارة برنامج التدريب التأسيسي للمدرسين ومدرسات التربية الرياضية، ويهدف إلى تطوير مهارات معلمي التربية البدنية في كيفية تعليم مهارات الأساسية في الرياضة الأولمبية ككرة اليد وكرة الطائرة وكرة السلة وألعاب القوى وغيرها من الألعاب. بالإضافة إلى برنامج المدربين العربي للتدريب الرياضي بالاتفاق مع اللجنة الأولمبية الدولية، ويهدف إلى الارتقاء بمستوى المدرب العربي في المرحلة المبتدئة إلى المرحلة المتقدمة بناء على العلوم الرياضية الحديثة والأساليب التدريبية المبتكرة. كما تقدم الأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية عدد من البرامج المتنوعة في مختلف العلوم الرياضية، ومثال على ذلك الإعلام الرياضي، علم النفس الرياضي، القانون الرياضي، وحل المنازعات، مكافحة المنشطات، النزاهة الإدارية والمالية، تنظيم الأحداث الرياضية الكبرى، والرياضة المعدلة لذوي الإعاقة وغيرها. قامت الأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية بعقد عدد من الاتفاقيات مع المؤسسات الدولية الرياضية، وعلى سبيل المثال الأكاديمية الأولمبية الدولية. قامت الأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية بعقد عدد من الاتفاقيات مع المؤسسات الدولية الرياضية، وعلى سبيل المثال الأكاديمية الأولمبية الدولية. قامت الأكاديمية الأولمبية القطرية بعقد مع المؤسسات الأكاديمية والاجتماعية في دولة قطر، ومنها متحف قطر الأولمبي، جمعية بيوت الشباب، الملتقى القطري للمؤلفين، مؤسسة العمل الاجتماعي، وجامعة قطر، بالإضافة إلى أكاديمية التفوق الرياضي سباير. متحف قطر الأولمبي، جمعية بيوت الشباب، الملتقى القطري للمؤلفين، مؤسسة العمل الاجتماعي، وجامعة قطر، بالإضافة إلى أكاديمية والسعي نحو التميز واحترام الآخرين والصداقة. شكرا جزيلا لاستماعكم.
العام أصحاب السعادة والسادة المتحدثين في الندوة. إذا نرحب بكل من سعادة الشيخ سعود بن عبد الرحمن آل ثاني نائب رئيس الديوان الأميري أمين عام لجنة الأولمبية القطرية سابقا. السيد جيمس ماكلود مدير إدارة العلاقات مع اللجان الأولمبية الوطنية والتضامن الأولمبي باللجنة الأولمبية الدولية. السيد حسين مسلم المدير التنفيذي للمجلس الأولمبي الآسيوي. السيدة جان بيترسون المدير التنفيذي للاتحاد البريطاني الأولمبي المدير التنفيذي للأكاديمية الأولمبية البريطانية. كما نرحب بالزميل راشد الطيبة الذي سيقوم بدعوة الندوة.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. طبعا in the beginning I would like to thank my colleague Khalid to welcome His Excellency, distinguished guests, friends from the media, and for sure our honoring speakers, who I feel totally happy and proud to be sitting at the same stage. People that I have met before and also hear about the efforts and the great job that they are doing for the specific subject that we are having today, education and Olympic movement development. If you allow me to begin with His Excellency Sheikh Saud bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani, and if we can go back a little bit on time and discussing about the starting of the Asian Games 2006, since we consider it an Olympic movement also, people keep saying it's the turning point. It's actually supported from that big challenge for us until today.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I will speak in English, so make it easier also for my colleagues here and the translator also, so who want to use the translating into Arabic. First, I'm very happy and delighted to be back, as I say, back home with the Olympic movement, because always, we feel when we are away from home, actually, from the Olympic movement. So I'm very delighted and sitting here among friends and colleagues, which we work with them for many years. And I think just you mentioned about the Asian Games. I think here we had one of our pillars in the Asian Games, Mr. Hussein Sallam. The first time when I met him, it was during the Asian Games, actually, and actually not 2006, but when the planning for the Asian Games, which I think we worked together very hard to have the event. And as you said, it was one of the major events for Qatar to host, and it was actually also like the turning point into both. Because when you host any event, you always will look to really the legacy behind this event. So two legacy we had. I mean, you have the hard legacy, which is the venues, which is you see most of them here around either in Karata or in Aspire or around Qatar. And the second thing which you see also, the soft legacy, which is really our manpower or the human legacy, which we have seen all the knowledge, and the knowledge transfer came from the OCA, but also from the Olympic Solidarity, which I'm glad to see James McLeod with us back here. We know him also for many years in the Olympic Solidarity, which he went out and back, but he's now the director of the NOC relation and the Olympic Solidarity, which is a man for the right job, I think, with Perry Miro. My point here, I think, also one of the legacy was establishing the Olympic Academy as safe. The director of the Olympic Academy, he mentioned 2006, which was, we were inspired by having this big event, which is the Asian Games. And of course, after that, we had many things that came after the Asian Games. One of them also, I think, Mr. Jassim mentioned, which is the School Olympic Program, which again, we started this in 2007 after the Asian Games, which was one of the idea came after the Asian Games, how we do something yearly, which will be used for our grassroots development, especially for our athletes. So this is very short. I can take a long period of speaking, but I want to leave time for my colleagues. Thank you.
I totally agree with you, maybe from my short experience, and because I was participating as a volunteer in 2006, having the great atmosphere from all the people working to deliver something amazing. Also, since we are talking about the Asian Games and the starting, for sure you will have a comment based on that event until our day or our day.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In the beginning, let me congratulate the State of Qatar for hosting the first World Anok Beach Game, which is really in 2 months. They put all the effort together and hosted 206 National Olympic Committee with 17 International Sport Federation, the IOC, the Continental Association, in a very short time. And this is confirm what His Excellency Sheikh Saud said, the legacy. Let me say one thing about the legacy of any Asian game or World Cup or Olympic Games or any big event. Any event you would like to do, if it's doesn't go with the planning of the development of the country or having any goal, it's waste of time, it's waste of money. But here, when Qatar bid for the Asian game, we were all surprised in 1998. And I am the first one, so this is not secret, I advised my colleague even before Sheikh Saud came to the NOC, why Qatar would like to do the Asian game. It is a huge budget, a huge infrastructure, it's a huge, and we were afraid a little bit, honestly speaking, in 1998. I consider myself as part of Qatar, part of all the region, part of the Middle East. And well, then we met the leadership at that time, and they explained to us the vision. So he said, His Highness, he said, we have a vision. We have a vision is how to develop state of Qatar can be through sport. And how is the international community held on their high standard, the high standard, can develop the country. And one of the questions maybe I mentioned to Sheikh Saud, say, where is the airport? And the athlete village, we have the requirement for the Asian Games, 15,000 athletes and officials, which is a huge number. What you gonna do about the waste management? What you gonna do about all the catering at the same time? 15,000 people eating, sleeping, you need the transportation all at the same time. And said, oh, this is too much. And three countries, was bidding for the game with Qatar. Well, Hong Kong, China, Delhi, India, and Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur, they were hosting the Commonwealth game, which is 92 countries. And then we believed, after they win the bid, I saw the first steps in the desert, where we are here now, with a lot of sand, and now we are enjoying fantastic building. Talking about what's happened, and this is the legacy. So this should be part of the education of the why we are practicing sport. It's not to go to the football field and win or lose, and then the media write we are good team or bad team. We have to tell a story for the future generation. We have to educate the future generation and the youth, who is now the student. We are talking about education, so we move to the student part. So those students, if we don't educate them about the real Olympic value, that you are practicing sport for better society, for safe society. Where I am from, the Middle East and the Gulf, I need this peace society. We all need this peace in this region. And I believe the sport can play a very positive and major part to promote peace, promote talking, promote dialogue, promote respect, which is part of the Olympic value. Promote to be excellent, but in fair play, not in cheating. This is how you educate the people. You can be good, but don't cheat. You can be the top in the world, but with respect. Not I be the champion of the world. I am the best scorer, but I don't talk to people. So all these things, and we should also, don't forget, part of the education, that the current champion or the current top players in the world now, at one stage, they will stop. So what we do with them? So we have to think that we utilize them in the education to pass knowledge for the future generation. So sport is not the Ministry of Finance, which is only you have to audit and is only to get money to give. Mr. Saif, he gave a menu a la carte just now. It's about human resource, it's about legal, it's about fighting against doping, this is sport, and this is education. And this is what we need to educate our future kids and generation. Thank you.
Exactly. As you mentioned, there is a lot of benefits from hosting events and also transferring knowledge. This will take us to Mr. James. From the IFC perspective, we can say or mention also about the role of the Olympic movement in developing world nations from a couple of perspectives, economically, social, and also politically and environmentally.
Well, thank you as well. Thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be back in Qatar. I was here only a couple of weeks ago. Your gracious host at the international, the IAAF World Championships. First of all, also congratulations on that event. I mean, it is a single sport event, but it's a very complicated one to organize. And to be able to, straight after that, organize the inaugural ANOC World Beach Games, I think we've talked about legacy in terms of the hard legacy, but it's more the people. I saw the same people at the two events, delivering excellent arrival departure processes, very good transportation, very good food and catering, etc. And to Captain Al-Musalam's point, these are elements that people often don't think about when you're having to organize games like this. But congratulations to you, and it's a pleasure to be back. Just in one point as well, the Asian Games in 2006 were one of my first Asian Games, and I will always remember the lighting of the cauldron as being one of my favorite ones. Easily. I know it was a windy, wet day, but it was spectacular. So congratulations on that, and I've never seen a better one. So congratulations. Just in terms of, maybe I can, to your question about sport and Olympic movement in terms of nation building, and I think that's where you're trying to get to. Yes, we feel it very strongly from the state of Qatar that sport is one of the vehicles that you're using to promote your country, to promote your heritage, to promote yourselves on the world stage. And I believe that there's a blueprint that you have adopted that is very ambitious, but also very successful. As you are gearing up to host, I would say, the second most important sporting event in the world, the FIFA World Cup. This will be, obviously, for you an amazing opportunity to be able to showcase what Qatar has, and also the hospitality of the country. And you do know that over those weeks you will be under the spotlight. And it allows you to also engage with your society, with your fellow citizens in terms of what they want to present to the world. You were saying before you were a volunteer in 2006. Volunteering is the base of all of these games, and if we can get that right, you will have a volunteer interacting with international spectators or players, etc., and they will be the face of Qatar. And I think, besides all the beautiful images you'll show of your new stadium on the television, I think that you will find that the volunteer process is probably the most important one. And I think this comes to what Captain Al-Musalam was saying about education. If you can educate all of those volunteers, all of your youth, through the academy and all the programs that we saw before. I was very pleased to see all the Olympic solidarity mentions, because we are working in close collaboration with your academy, of course. So I think if you can use this education, use the promotion of values through your volunteering, I think you'll be able to host very successful events. Going to the wider picture, yes, sport is used across the world to build nations. It is one of the vehicles that allows nation building to happen. We saw that from the IOC side when, for example, the Soviet Union disbanded, and then there was suddenly a number of new NOCs that came in. Their representation at the Olympic Games was a very proud moment for them, because they were able to, on global television, will be able to say, we are the National Olympic Committee of X country, of Kazakhstan or Tajikistan or Serbia recently, etc. And they were able to use that opportunity to really start creating an identity for their country. So from our point of view at the IOC, and also I speak on behalf of the OCA here, it's a very important moment, because it does allow sport and this creation of the national identity.
Exactly, as all of you have mentioned, transferring knowledge and is also considered important. If I may take an example in Buenos Aires, a youth change ambassador or the change maker also as a program to transfer knowledge and to let them feel the moment itself in games. I believe also in Switzerland, they will, for the Winter Youth Olympic Games, they will also change one program to implement the same thing. Let them live the moment itself to transfer knowledge at the end.
Absolutely. I mean, there are a number of programs. That's just one example.
Exactly.
I think you at a national level, having seen the activities of the Qatar National Olympic Academy, you can also implement these kind of elements within your national programming. At the IOC, yes, we try to work a lot on legacy. We could also talk about the boring legacy of transferring knowledge on how many meals you have to serve in an Olympic village, etc. But I think it's more than that. It's transferring the values, from games to games, whether it's an Asian Games to a Youth Games to an Olympic Games to a FIFA World Cup. I think we need to probably look at that as a whole.
Exactly. Mrs. Jan, also, since we are talking about education and also transferring knowledge regarding the development of the Olympic movement itself, as far as I get, you were one of the first chief dimissions in the Winter Youth Olympic Games. Exactly, congratulations on that. Maybe it gives you inspiration more for more women to participate in sports as a chief dimission. As we can see, until today they are handling a very important positions and helping and supporting the sport itself.
Thank you. That was a long time ago. You've been with me for a long time. From my view on placement of women, specifically in leadership roles, the Olympic movement is an exemplar landscape in the fact that there is copious amounts of research which demonstrates that with 30% diversity in a team, in a business, you increase productivity and performance in excess of 5%. Now, when you multiply that across the business economics, or indeed a team's success at a game, regardless of what success, that's quite a large stance for success. I think coupled with that, when you have leadership positions that are given to women, it's their responsibility with that privilege to be able to set an example for other women. But I would extend it past women and say it's diversity. Diversity is very important because it's reflective of society. No society is singularly driven by one gender, by one ethnicity. And if we are to, the captain's point, create peace through sport, and we all know that sport is a tool for social good, we need to be reflecting the society we live in, which would be the combination of the diversity. So I would personally encourage as many opportunities as possible to ensure that you meet those objectives of whoever is best and competent for the role is given the opportunity. And when you have an ability to be able to give an opportunity to a young woman in any role, it would be very important to encourage that personal development.
Exactly. Sheikh Sud, after hearing all this useful information, this will also take us to the POC, since you were Secretary General of Qatar Olympic Committee in 2003 until 2014 after a successful journey with the big achievements. as far as I remember, the Qatar Olympic Committee was one of the institutions that implement a strategy of 4 years, supporting even with a country vision to 2013.
Yes, thank you, but you cut me 2 years, so 2002 until 2015. But let me just say one thing before I just remember, because I thought Gunilla will be with us. Because the IOC set up also for education a role model. I remember the first thing I did when I was Secretary General of the NOC, I looked for whatever educational part or, let's say training that the IOC can give for Secretary General. So the first thing I learned, they had a MEMOS program. So I already entered the MEMOS program in 2002, beginning or middle of 2002. I graduated from there in December, I think, 2003, and Gunilla was the one who handed to me the certificate instead of Jacob. So I remember I was going to say to her, but she did not come today. But this is something that the IOC set up a role model for us to use educational part and training part, because even some of them, even I met I think the president of the NOC, and she's an IOC member of Ethiopia. She was with me also, and I met her also in the opening ceremony. She was with me in the MEMOS program. Coming back to your question, I think in order to achieve anything, you need really to put a strategy and objectives. And this is what we try to do. And coming back again to what Hussein mentioned about lining up your strategy with your country vision. So this is one of the main things we did, both in organizing and I will give an example, the Asian Games, and the second also within our sports strategy within the NOC and the Sport Federation. So within Asian Games, what we did when we tried to look for the village that will host the number of athletes and officials that Hussein just mentioned, in the government, they look for who is the ministries who will need something within the coming 5 or 6 years. And this was, the study is done in 2001 and 2002. And then they decide, well, the Ministry of Health will need housing and will need hospitals. And then from there, the village was built on the basis of this. So, and thanks God, after that, the housing directly was used after the Asian Games that hosted all the athletes. And the second thing, the other building which was used for many functions during the Asian Games turned to be 3 hospitals, I think now, one after the other open. So this is also again one of the idea how you line up your country vision within any sporting event that you do. So similarly, we did within our NOC. So we made the objectives. What are the objectives we want to achieve within our, let's say, NOC or the sport movement in Qatar? One of them, we want to have, for example, more participants from the young, generation into sport. Not only for, let's say, professional athletes who will participate within the club and the federation, but also for the society. So from there, we try to plan anything within our, for example, facilities, for example, because at that time, we were, as NOC, we were the one to do the planning and also the building and also the operation of all the venues. So just one example here, you can see after that. When we did the planning, and also we had engineering Hamad, he was also one of the guys who was working on that. We work in Al-Gharrafa Stadium, just an example here in Al-Gharrafa. So we thought, okay, we want to make this venue accessible to the society and to the people living here in Gharrafa. So we made like tracks for walking and jogging around all Al-Gharrafa Stadium. So we can use it not only for the professional athlete, but also for anyone from the society who can use. So this is the objectives we put is within our strategy to have more participation from the society into the sport. And then we convert this into project that we would do within our strategy, within our NOC, and also within our federation. So this is just one example. But then we had also, for example, we want to achieve more medals. And we had a target at that time, I think London 2008, which we achieved 2012. So we achieved 2 medals. There was actually at that time, we reached to the same achievement of Greek. You know, we got 2 bronze medals, I remember, and Greek got 2 bronze medals. So we were very happy that we achieved at least what we want to achieve within our planning. But this is some of the, let's say, the strategy that we, let's say, put within our NOC, and we try to work within that. But in addition, of course, we involve more stakeholders with us, such as Aspire Academy, which are like, let's say, the academy to prepare the high performance or the athletes for our federation, and also many others. So this is you know, one of the idea we put. But in addition to that, of course, we look into the IOC. What is the IOC is looking to a country in terms of a sport movement, and at that time we put like a plan. One of them was actually to establish the academy, because the academy, when established in 2006, we did not have a building. But then we built, the building was in 2012 or 13? I think 13. So this is one of the things. But in addition, we had an idea, and this was like in our objectives, to have the first anti-doping laboratory in the Middle East, and with the help, you know, Hussein Zir. I remember my phone call with him. This was, he had at that time the director of the WADA in Kuwait, I think, in the OCA. And I called him, I said, Hussein, we knew that he's there. We have this objectives. We want to find a way to sign together, because I know there was a little bit of a competition around us, that many other countries thinking about it. So at that time we had the director, which is not anymore. I asked, he told me they left. Retired, exactly. So he flew here in Qatar, and we signed signed the agreement together. And then I think 2011, we opened the first anti-doping. December was exactly December 2011. We opened the first anti-doping laboratory in the Middle East. And many of these ideas came from the objective that we set to have Qatar as a central for sport excellence, as Jasim mentioned. So how to achieve sport excellence is not only by organizing a big event, but also to have, you know, to get all the elements needed to reach to this objectives.
This will lead us to the IOC, as we heard also. Following the Olympic movement development, it's actually giving all the benefits for the countries itself. Let's say about the hosting events, whether it's mega or even international, or also Olympic Games. How does the IOC look into the bidders, the candidates, when they bid to the file? I know there's countries that's not in the same level. Some of them are providing in a high cost, some of them in the minimum cost, but there is elements that support both files.
That's a very good and topical question, because recently the IOC, under the umbrella of Olympic Agenda 2020, and I'll say Olympic Agenda 2020 quite a lot, which is the reform process that the IOC and the whole Olympic movement has gone on in the last few years, with this concept of we need to change, or else we'll be changed at some point. And the Olympic Agenda 2020, it's looking at all the different facets of the Olympic movement, not least legacy, sustainability, credibility and youth. Those are the main key words. What we have just done is looked at what we consider the bidding process for an Olympic Games and a Youth Olympic Games. In the past, you'll recall that there was too many losers. Hussein explained before, for the bid for Qatar 2006, you have one very happy Qatar and 3 very unhappy other NOCs. And we at the IOC were in the process as well of this happening to a lot of cities that were going for the Olympic Games. And that is not a good process to be in. And it ended up with just one winner and many losers. We also were looking at this idea of promoting the Games, of using the candidature process to actually promote the country and the Games. Sometimes countries or cities wanted to be part of the candidature process just so that they can get their name there, and they get a lot of free TV time. There's a lot of ink that's used by the press to talk about the candidacy. So that there is a positive to that. So what we've just done now is we've changed the bidding process, and we've created 2 they call future host commissions. So we're no longer looking at this as pure cities. So the concept of Paris 2024 and LA 2028 may change to a joint bid of regions, of countries, of etc. But what we're also going to do is look at this as being an iterative process. Part of what we were discussing before was the concept of legacy. We do not want to allocate the games to a city or a country that will not have a strong legacy and sustainable plan in place for after the games. Because that just opens us up to criticism. It opens the whole Olympic movement up to criticism. So what we're trying to look at are allocating games there where there is a strategic need for them to go for the future development of the Olympic movement and indeed the host nation. So there's two new commissions that have been set up, one for summer games and one for winter games. And these commissions will be reporting to the IOC Executive Board on a regular basis as to where opportunities exist and where other dialogues are happening with countries that need to be controlled, that need to be looked at, and ensure that those cities and regions and countries remain within the dialogue with the IOC. Because sometimes a city will come to the table and will not have everything ready. They may not have a village like you had here and you had to build it. And there may be an opportunity to say, well, this is a good idea, but let's wait 4 years. Let's keep the dialogue going. Let's help you with how you're going to create it. And so what we're trying to do now is a much more strategic approach. And this was approved literally 2 weeks ago. So I know the information was sent out, obviously, from the IOC, but it is a new way of looking at things. So we'll no longer be running a competitive bid process. It will be more of an iterative process.
Great strategy, and I believe you will reach success, as always the IOC is doing. Since you mentioned earlier, Mr. Hussein, regarding the finance, I think it's not only finance, but also finance considered an important role for the events. Let's say, as the finals or any games that will be in, does the cost actually taken in place? Because also there is a lot of benefit that coming out after the event itself.
Okay, let me first talk about your point, and then I will come to the main subject, the education and the Olympic movement. Again, you have a vision. My experience working in Asia under the umbrella of the IOC, because we are one body. We are part of the IOC. Asia is the yellow ring. So we have the same system and procedure like the International Olympic Committee. But maybe because the culture in Asia is different than the culture in Scotland, correct? So we modify our approach after the Doha win the big, and we adopt the system what Mr. James McLeod have indicated, that we put no competition, but we put two games behind each other, such as when Doha game was running or in the preparation, then it was Guangzhou 2010 and Incheon 2014 signed the contract for hosting this event. And then now, even now, we have for the future game, before Jakarta game, and we have the contract signed with China for Hangzhou City 2022, and also the Nagoya in Japan for 2026, and we are in negotiation between some bidder between the south, between the east and west and central. Regarding your question about finance, you can look at it in two different ways. If you have a vision, then whatever you spend is not wasted. It's go and contributed to the country. Like now, all the benefit that's been spent on the preparation for the Asian game, for the venues or the airport or the upgrade the custom, the hospitals, everything. At the end of the day, all the people who participate in the game, they left Qatar. But who get the benefit? The citizen of Qatar. Qatar now become more healthy society in all aspects compared to the region. I'm talking about from sport point of view. And Qatar also become an international hub. Sport bring Qatar to be an international hub. Now a lot of you have sport tourism coming to Qatar in the winter, coming from Europe to or cold country to make training camp here. Who benefit from that? Both parties, Qatar benefit and the people who come here for training camp. The other thing, we in Asia, as the Olympic Council of Asia with the Olympic Solidarity, we use Aspire and we use all the facility here to develop the youth of Asia in all sports. It was before with track and field, now coming in 2 weeks swimming. We call from each country one male, one female. That's we always equal in Asia. Women and men they have equal opportunity. And their coach coming here to Doha, live in Doha for 2 weeks, 10 days, with the help of the International Federation concerned, and they learn. So this money you invested in 2000 or 2001, who say, oh, you spent billions and billions for what? It's paying back now. So this is the real investment. With the sport, with your youth, whatever you invest, and if you have vision, it's not a waste of money. Same like when you invest for your kids to get the best education, best healthy life. This is not a waste of money from your pocket. This is investment in your child. And this is the important things. But let me go and summarize some point at least about the how we can develop the education in the Olympic movement and what we were required regarding the tool of the implementation. The first thing is sports and the school. All the kids, they are in the school, and it's very important. Kuwait have no sports system. I'm from Kuwait. I'm the Secretary General now, elected just 3 months ago as Secretary General of Kuwait. We are working very hard how to convince the Minister of Education to let sport in the school, especially from age 6 years to 18 years, because it is important. Without going in detail, I go to the second point, is the agreement between the National Olympic Committee and the Minister of Education. This is very important because the kids at the Minister of Education, the teacher, the Minister of Education. So to reach sport in the school, I need to make an agreement with the Minister of Education. So this is very important point, how to develop the education through Olympism. Then, the most important things also, we have to be open for the new challenge and the new media. We should not be scared from the media, whether they can say negative things about our work or positive things about work. So, but we have to be really updating ourselves, ready for the new generation. Where my kids and my grandkids, they have different style of how the world is looking, how they look for the sport. So we have to be ready for that. And this is very important when you are approaching the education for the Olympic or to improve the Olympic and the school or this, that you have to be very open-minded how to use and utilize the new media platform, because the future generation, they are at that platform. And how you engage them, this is very important. It's not only the physical exercise, but how to bring them to be engaged in the sport through the new media.
Thank you for that. And we'll also ask Mrs. Khan regarding also supporting the education and Olympic movement through the programs, especially also for the women who start from which age, schools, until they participate in their events.
Thank you for the question, and I would agree with exactly the description that Hussein has just given. I'm also the Chief Executive of our Olympic Academy. we have spent a lot of time. We have spent a Hello. Thank you. We spent a lot of time focusing on education for young people, full stop. It's not in, we haven't delineated between boys and girls, but it's for everyone who's part of the school system. And we did a very similar project and spoke with the Ministry of Education and said what we were trying to achieve was to give equal opportunity to participate in sport, to be across the Olympic values, and to understand what sport can do towards a healthy and active lifestyle for both boys and girls. We were very fortunate, and I'm incredibly conscious that not all countries have this privilege, but because we hosted the 2012 Olympic Games, we as an NOC benefited from the most successful Olympic education program in history, a program called Get Set, and it was given to the NOC when the Games were finished. We've been able to use that as a tool across a number of different educational platforms, embracing new media, looking at different ways that young people consume sport, but also want to articulate sport. And we've used it as a vehicle to set up different advisory groups. We have a young female group to encourage us and to develop our own thinking about how young women might like to engage in physical activity, but equally, how they might like to become part of the infrastructure of sport across the world. How can we use their ideas for women who are in middle management positions to excel to senior leadership positions? What do they need to do that? Who could their mentors be, men or women? We've done it across education full stop for using the Olympic values. What do the Olympic values do to increase ownership in a country about feeling that sport is part of our DNA? I would say at the moment in the UK, sport is not necessarily part of the DNA. We are brilliant spectators of sport. Physically active, but we're moving in that direction. The nice thing for us is the younger generation, because of our Olympic education program, we reach 6.5 million young people across the UK in the last 3 years. On an annual basis, we reach 1 million young people, boys and girls, encouraging participation, encouraging the Olympic values and an understanding of the Olympic values, and encouraging aspiration to be part of the Olympic and sporting family, whether that be as part of the entourage, whether that be as part of the infrastructure, the administrative side, or indeed the athletes. But underlining all of it, it's about ensuring that there is equal opportunity through Olympic education in all of its senses for both females and males.
I totally agree with you. All what I'm hearing here is also supportive for the education and the Olympic movement. If you allow us now to open the door for the questions with the audience we would like to ask. Please, Mr. Khalid.
My name is Khalil Al-Jaber. I'm from Qatar Olympic Committee. I really thank all the presenters here for the welcome presentation regarding the sport, especially the legacy. Everybody was put his input on the legacy. Yes, we aware about the legacy and what is the benefit can be given to the country and how to develop the country. This is, we witnessed it during the Asian Games. But after that, I could just say that, Qatar Olympic Committee, they prepared themselves because they used or they expect to receive many facilities after the game, if you could remember, Your Excellency. And we can witness also many countries, they built a lot of facilities, as like, huge venues, and as you call it, a white elephant or a big elephant to leave it after the games. But it was really, there was a big strategy, behind the facility that we expect or we received from the organizing committee, plus the equipment. There is a huge equipment has been left after the game. And it was there really a good strategy that, how we can keep most of the venue are dynamic, if you could remember, Your Excellency. Then we put really a strategy at that time, how to host such as like many events in Doha, to keep this venue in a good shape and all the time to be used. This is just to elaborate regarding that. So I have just one question regarding the woman, if you allow me. I can see that the woman participate in the majority of the IOC. What are the steps and procedure taken by IOC to overcome obstacle of the woman participation in the sport? This is my first question. And the second question, I don't know, that the education also, the part of the education is really crucial. Also, IOC, they supposed to have a plan, especially that, there is a lot of activity in the school, and there are a lot of programs, especially that, I can see from my time which I spent with the ISF, International School Federation, they need support. They need support actually from the IOC, since that the Olympic chapter that we have focusing on the education part. They are conducting a lot of competition through the years. They need the support. We really want to get back, as you agree, all of you, that the main source for the sport, for the roots, the grassroots, or for the generation, the new generation, it is in the school, as you mentioned. Thank you.
So thank you. So first of all, talking about women's participation, we don't talk about women's participation anymore. We talk about equity, as Jan has said before. The Tokyo Game, the first thing the IOC does is they look at the sports program at the Games. In the Tokyo Games will be more or less at a 50-50 equal participation between men and women. And that's where we want to get for all competitions as much as possible. There's obviously some technical issues with that, but we work very hard with the international federations to make sure that that happens. The second thing we do, and Jan said it very well, is we need to lead by example. So there's a number of things that the IOC has put in place, especially the gender equity project and the review that we did that was run through our commission. That sets a number of aspirational targets for not only the IOC, but also all the different components of the Olympic movement. We have, for example, some of our colleagues from Oceania here, from the NOCs. In Oceania, they have some very hard quotas for women's participation in the executive board and the commissions, etc. We believe that is one way to do it, but there are other ways through education, through various different activities that can be put in place, whether it's from an IOC side or NOCs or IFs. So again, I think the IOC's role in this area is really one to lead by example, to open the doors to diversity, whether it's men, women, or ethnicity, etc., and to embrace that. Because as an Olympic movement, we can't just look at ourselves through one vision. We have to be a diverse organization. And we even say it's unity through diversity. And that really is one of the mottos of the International Olympic Committee. Coming on to your second question relating to education. Again, the IOC's role here, we have a program, the OVET program, the Olympic Values Education program, that a lot of NOCs embrace, and the Get Set, if I remember well, was they used the OVET to then develop what was logical to develop in Britain before a Games and after a Games. Each National Olympic Committee, each territory has different ways of looking at education, different ways of engaging with your youth. As Hussein was saying, this collaboration with your ministries, in some countries it works, in some countries it doesn't. So what we try to do from an IOC side is give you the tools and the impetus and say, here we go, this is what we would like you to explain, up to you to start implementing that. Through Solidarity, we'll be able to, through the Olympic Solidarity programs, we'll be able to support with technical experience, also with some financial stuff, but we'll be able to help you to do that. And as you say, the more youth and grassroots kids that we can actually attract into the movement, the better it will be for all of us.
Thank you, James. I want just to say one thing, and I would like to commend really the role of the IOC. I remember I was involved in one thing, which is especially to encourage to have more female participation within the International Federation, or to have the equity, as you just mentioned. I remember the IOC was really commending and talking to all the International Federation to adjust or to adopt all the uniform necessary for the female as the culture necessity. For example, I remember for basketball, it was one of the last federation to adopt this, even though that FIFA, so all other federation, karate, judo, taekwondo, handball, and volleyball, but basketball, for example, I remember when I was the president of the Basketball Federation, this is one of the things that we achieved, but with the really leadership of the IOC, and then we had more participation. I was recently in last July, end of June, in Amsterdam, in the World Championship for 3x3. So I had Alex from the FIBA, from the International Basketball Federation, which we thank you. You included 3x3, which I am still, the vice president of the commission for 3x3. So when I was sitting, and it was the team of the Iranian were sitting there with their hijab. So I said to Alex, look, if FIBA insisted not to have the regulation of the hijab not allowed, which is a traditional, it's in the culture and the heritage of many countries around the world, they will not see the female from Iran there. So he said, yeah, this is one of the things that I commend really the IOC, and I remember in many aspects. But also about what Khalil mentioned, I would like to comment on that, because we had Madame Fawzia Al-Khater with us from the Ministry of Education, and we thank them, and we thank all the team in the Ministry of Education, because really through their support, when I mentioned earlier about the School Olympic program in 2007, 2008, I remember when we started, we had only 6,000 female and male, and after 3 years only, we had almost 36,000 participants from all schools in Qatar, which a program I believe Jassim is still running as it is now, because it starts normally in October and ends in March or February, and it goes for about 5 months with all qualification until the final. It used to be, I think, happening in Aspire now in all the federation venues. So this is and I remember also for the Olympic values, we used to every year use one of the Olympic values to link it with that program. So one of them was sustainability, one of them was fair play, one of them was, every year we use one values, and we let the Minister of Education do some activities within the school, and they do a kind of, I don't want to say competition, but an activity, and they choose the best school who participate within the activity related with that Olympic value. So it implement within the young generation in the school. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Zach, you have a call.
I think there would be two things I would emphasize, to James's point around diversity. Well, the one thing I think we should all be aware of in the Olympic family is, whilst we're seeking diversity, we need to ensure that as everyone comes through the system, that we put in place education programs that support them. So when they get to the opportunity of taking a senior leadership role, they are competent to be able to do so. So the education has to start with the young, which then would take me to the point of His Excellency, which is around, we would say that we have an example of using young people to inform how we choose to educate them. So whilst the OVET program exists, it doesn't translate, as James's point. You could not just plop that program into every single NOC. But what you can do is convert it so it makes sense in your society and in your culture, but it equally needs to be informed by the young people who are going to consume it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. At the end, I would like to thank you all.
ممكن سؤال بس؟
Absolutely. تفضل.
أشكرك. عشان ترجمة دكتور الترجمة بسؤال موجه لك بعد. جيمس.
البداية فاجأتني الأخت الخاطر بما أنا موجودة نتعامل معها حركة اتحادات وأندية، نتعامل معها بالتلفون وبالإيميل. صراحة هذه السيدة اللي فتحت لنا الأبواب المدارس، سهلتنا امور كثيره، اكتشفنا ابطال بسبب هذا اللي فتحت لنا الابواب بالمدارس اللي اكتشفنا منهم الابطال. اشكرك صراحه بيضاء وجهك. قبل لا نجي موضوع المراه او لاعب او السيده، قبل لا نجي وكان موجود الاخ جاسم معنا في تكريم الابطال امس سعاده الشيخ جوعان بن حمد قبل تقريبا ساعتين. اغلب الحديث كان اهتموا برياضه المراه. نبغي نعمل فرق للمراه. هذه واحد. سؤالي الاخ حسين والاخ جبس. تكلمت في البدايه مدحتوا قطر وايد، انشاءاتها والبنيه التحتيه وعملت بطولات ونظمت احداث كثيره سواء رياضيه امور كثيره في البلد. اللجنه الاولمبيه ما فكرت ان تعمل جائزه زي نوبل السلام تشجع الدول هذه؟ لان هاي سالتها السؤال قبل اسبوع لكن ما حصلت جواب او امتنعت على الجواب. ما في ممكن الاتحاد او اللجنه الاولمبيه الدوليه تفكر في جائزه زي نوبل السلام للدول اللي مهتمه في الرياضه والبنيه التحتيه، لان هذه مش يعني مثلا قطر مش القطريين فقط، كل العالم الرياضيين في العالم يجون يعملوا معسكرات ويستفيدون من هذه المنشات. هذا هو سؤالي. شكرا.
IOC gives out many awards. Many awards, no. On a serious note, yes, we don't have a process of direct awards, etc., etc. What we do is recognize where good work has been done. And that's just through showing collaboration to other NOCs. One example is the Qatar Olympic Academy. To us, it is a shining example of what should be done for education, through the Olympic movement, etc. And it really is something that we would like to foster as much collaboration between Qatar and either your neighbors or even further afield. Those are the kind of things that the IOC wants to do. We don't want to turn into a process where we're giving out awards for A, B, C, or D, because otherwise it also devalues Olympic medals that athletes will be getting, and we need to stay focused on that. But what we do is recognize where excellence is happening, and what we want to do is then use that excellence and make sure other NOCs are able to do that. We're very lucky, we've got a number of NOCs at the back of the room here, who I think will probably all go back to their country and said, wow, we listened to the presentation before of what's happening here. And this is real Olympism in action. So that's where we recognize the different organizations.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Thank you. We are not saying good things about Qatar because we are in Qatar. We are saying good things about what we see in Qatar. The facility, the infrastructure for the sport. This is what we are saying. The second thing, we are mentioning about Qatar because today we are in Qatar and the Olympic Academy, it was a continuation and part of the vision of the Qatar sport. And I will give you example. I work with China since I joined the Olympic Council of Asia for 7 games. And the first game was in 1990. So I've been working with the Chinese Olympic Committee and Beijing City in 84 when Beijing won the bid to host 1990 Asian Games. And I remember it was only Beijing Hotel. It was a very old style Chinese hotel. There is no room service, there is no spa, there is no English, nothing. But because of the Asian Game 1990, had made a big change, as had the Qatar Asian Game, Doha 26, in Beijing City and overall China. Development of China in all aspects, the city of Beijing, the sports system, the education system, the health system, everything. My friend from Korea behind, he was one of the fighters for Taekwondo to be in to include in the Olympic Games and the Seoul Asian Game 86. And when I was new to the Olympic Council of Asia, I joined them around 81, end of 81. Immediately I worked with Seoul Organizing Committee. To reach Seoul at that time, to fly from Kuwait to Seoul, I need 2 days to reach Seoul because the system not developed in Korea. When they provide me with Hyundai car. By the time I reached the hotel, I had back problem because of there is no comfortable cushion and seat. But Hyundai became a partner for the Asian Game and sponsor. And then to the Olympic Games in '88, and then followed the World Cup. So they have to develop their product. And this is what the legacy for, not only on the human, but also for the product of the country. And I give you now 2 country examples. The third example now, Japan. I work with them 3 winter games for Asia, not the Olympic Games, and 2 Asian Games. And now for 2026, and I can see the different city how developed from Tokyo to Fukuoka to Nagoya to Sapporo and now Sapporo ready to host an Olympic winter game with all infrastructure. So it's coming to our main point, not because we said good things about Qatar because we are in Qatar. We are saying good things about what we see in Qatar. This is very important. And we are saying this happened because there is a vision in the early 90s that Qatar or Doha to be like this. I remember when you ran, I was official sitting and watching you. And everybody saying, oh, how this guy running, very fast in 100 meters, and from where he come. But now look to your team. Because you have a vision, the Federation have vision, the NOC have vision, the country have vision, the Ministry of Education have vision. If she doesn't believe to help you, it will be the same like our ministry in Kuwait. They close the school, simply, and they leave. And we have thousands and thousands kids without sport. But now, I put condition, I will not work in the Olympic Committee of Kuwait as Secretary General unless the Undersecretary of Ministry of Education is a board member with me. Because if we take decision, then he can implement it in his ministry. And that's why now we are gonna start, first time in history in Kuwait, with 5,000 kids, 4 years to 11 years, 2,500 girls, 2,500 boys. To start how not to be Messi, or Ronaldinho, or Talal Mansour. No. Enjoy sport. Be good. Learn fair play. Don't be cheater. Be helpful. Respect. Do your best. This is what we are launching now in Kuwait with the help of Ministry of Education. But it was very difficult before, but now he's a board member with us, the Undersecretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hussein. I'd like to take advantage and say thank you to all of you for being a part of our seminar today and having a very useful information and discussion in our subject, education and Olympic movement development. I will ask if you please remain seated. I will deliver the word to my colleague Khalid to proceed.
شكرا راشد. نشكر أصحاب السعادة والسادة المتحدثين في هذه الندوة، وندعو سعادة الأمين العام لتكريم المحتفل به مع السيد المدير التنفيذي للأكاديمية.
اسمح لي خالد بس دقيقة، أرد على الأخ طلال بس دواني قبل التكريم، تسمح لي ولا في مجال؟
خلصنا العوضيين
بس يخلصون التكريم إن شاء الله. وكذلك شكرا للسيد جيمس ماكلاود لمداخلته المميزة التي أعطت طابع مميز جدا في هذا الندوة. كذلك نشكر السيد حسين المسلم على أمثلته الرائعة في هذه الندوة. وكذلك نشكر السيدة جان بيترسون على تواجدها والحديث المميز أيضا في هذه الندوة. ندعو سعادة الضيوف لأخذ صورة جماعية.
جزاك الله خير.
وسعود يسأل سؤال. وسعود يسأل سؤال. يسأل سؤال.
وبس رد على الأخ طلال منصور، أنا بس بوضح نقطة، يعني هو سأل سؤال قال ليش ما في تكريم أو ما في جائزة نوبل الجوائز اللي تقدم للرياض؟ أعتقد أخونا الكابتن حسين المسلم كان صاحب فكرة الحفل السنوي لمنظمة الأنو، ومنظمة الأنو أعتقد كرمت معتز برشم في جائزة قيمة كانت لمعتز ويستاهل. أعتقد في جائزة سنوية أو حفل سنوي يسمونه الإخوان في الأنو مشابه تقريبا لجائزة الأفضل في كل سنة، فلا تأكد أن الإخوان في الأنو هم جزء من اللجنة الأولمبية الدولية في حفل دولي سنوي يقام لتكريم الأفضل. بس هذا الرد لك يا بالبلد هم يعطون اوكي.
شكرا للجميع. ندعو جميع الحضور لأخذ صورة تذكارية أمام مبنى الأكاديمية.
هذا اللي انا ما اتكلمت عن